start today, 136a, but the last line of 136a. Kuf Lamed Vav Lamed Aleph. The last line says Itmar. We had a statement before, a machlekes, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel in the Rabbanon. If a child doesn't survive 30 days, if it was considered a viable child or not, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel said no. If you didn't survive the 30 days, then the first 30 days, then wasn't considered never alive. The Rabbanon didn't say so. So Itmar, we have a statement. Child dies within 30 days. That's a very sad story here. The child dies within 30 days, but the father of the child, the husband of the mother, passed away. Also, so two passed away. The husband and the child. And now, the mother went and married someone else, a stranger, not the brother of the husband, not the brother of the deceased. There's really a mitzvah of yibam, the levirate marriage. She's supposed to marry her husband's brother if there's no child. Problem here is that there was a child. The child didn't survive. Is that considered a child or not? So, she went and she got married very quick. Doesn't have to be that it was very quick. It's just what the story sounds like. So, Amar Ravina Mishmei Rava. Ravina says the name of Rava. Im Eishes Yisrael, if the new husband is a non-Kayan, so we can resolve this easily. Chiletzes. So she does a chalitza. That means she goes to the husband's brother, to the deceased's brother, and she does chalitza. She pulls off the shoe, and she does that whole thing. He doesn't want to take his brother's wife. Then she goes back to the person that she married, and she does a new kedushin. So it's easy to fix this. The problem is, let's say the new husband is a kayan. So you're not supposed to. Chalitza is like a divorce. A kayan's not supposed to marry a divorcee. So she really doesn't have that solution to go to the brother of the deceased, do chalitza, and then remarry this kayan. She won't be allowed to marry the kayan.
This is all assuming now, I gather, that it's claiming that the first kedushin doesn't hold. Is that what this is saying?
If the chalitza was required, then the first kedushin wouldn't hold.
So it's okay.
The problem is, it's all dependent on if the child was actually viable.
So that's the first stage, I was saying. But the second stage is ultimately we're saying that the fact that she did kedushin, b'chula, that it's not holding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a Tosfos here that discusses that it's not really minadin. There's really no problem minadin, because there's actually no problem. Tosfos is just concerned about the laws. He's just concerned that there's going to be a talk about the children of this kayan, that people are going to start whispering that, the mother was a divorcee. But actually, this halachically, there would be no problem according to what the way Tosfos explains this. That's how Tosfos puts it. He lightens up that the whole issue. Okay, so this is Rava's. So Imesh's kain he ain't a chiletzes. So what do you do? According to Rava. So Rava says, just don't do chalitza. So how do you just do that? And then just don't do chalitza. Maybe she required chalitza. So Rava's opinion is that, look, we have a machlekes, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel in the Rabbanon. Which opinion should we rely on? So if we're able to rely on Reb Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion that the child was not viable, so do chalitza. Aim for the highest. But where are you going to settle for? We'll have to settle for the Rabbanon's opinion if we're not able to. See, that's the interesting thing in halacha, that it's a lot of gray areas. And you can't always paskin like the most machmer. I'll say, well, just be machmer in every area. Machmer over here means that they can't get married. So we'll go to the more lenient opinion. We'll rely on that. There's a reason why that opinion exists. And we'll rely on that opinion over here to allow the kohen to stay married to his wife. We won't do chalitza. We'll say that the child was considered viable, even though he didn't survive 30 days, according to the opinion of the Rabbanon. Rav Sharvia, maybe it's Rav Misharshia, there's two gersos, Mishmei de Rava Amar, Achazu v'achazu chaletzes. No, you have to do chalitza, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So Amalei Ravina le Rav Sharvia. Now both of them were saying a statement in the name of Rava. Ravina says to Rav Sharvia, he says, you're right, in your quote of Rava. But urta Amar Rava Hachi, Litzafra Haderbe. You have an earlier version of Rava, about 12 hours earlier. That's what he said in the evening. But when he came back in the morning, he changed from his opinion. And he said that the Eishes Kayan should not do Chalitza. So in his final verdict is that you don't do that. So Amalei Shar Yesua, you're a permitter. I don't know, permitter or permit her. You're permitting her. Yehi Ravad Tishutarba. Should be the will of Hashem that you should permit chelav. That's I guess he's saying like your true colors should be exposed. You're just being lenient here. Next, what are you going to do next? You're going to permit forbidden fat. Okay. A strong expression. Rabbi Yehuda Mater. Rabbi Yehuda said about doing a bris on an androgynous on Shabbos and a hermaphrodite. Rabbi Yehuda said that Yimachal Shabbos. Rabbi Yehuda Mater b'androgynous. You do the bris on Shabbos, on the hermaphrodite. So Amar Rav Shizvi, Amar Rav Chizda. Rav Shizvi says in the name of Rav Chizda, Leila kalam Rabbi Yehuda androgynous zacharu. This is not across the board that Rabbi Yehuda actually holds that an androgynous is a male child. He doesn't say this about every single halacha. He happens to say it here, but don't think that this is his opinion across the board. Because if you're going to say that he really holds that it's androgynous is a male, Berach and Yarech, he should be evaluated the way we evaluate for Erechin. The way Erechin works is that someone could pledge to the Beis Hamikdash a person's value. The way we determine the value is based on the person's age and if it's a male or a female. So, and the male decreases faster than the female. The female retains their value with age. That's what the Torah says. So, what about a hermaphrodite, the androgynous? Does he get evaluated here, and what category does it go under? So, if Rabbi Yehuda holds that it's a male, then yeah. So the Rav Chizda says, Rav Shizbi, in the name of Rav Chizda, no. Rav Yehuda doesn't hold that it's really a male. It's just by bris that he had that statement that you're allowed to do a bris on Shabbos. How do you know that he doesn't go under that category? That he doesn't get evaluated? The Tanya was taught in the Brisa. It says Hazachar. The Brisa quotes the pasuk. It says the male. Now, because it says the male, or the male, so it says V'lei tumtum v'androgynous. It's excluding a tumtum. Tumtum is someone whose, I guess, reproductive organs are covered over with skin. You can't really tell. There's a growth that covers them. And an androgynous, that's excluding those two. Maybe it just means that he doesn't get evaluated as a man, but maybe you evaluate them like as a female. Female, the value is usually less, even though they retain the value for longer, but they don't have the same depreciation. So Talmud Leimer Hazachar V'im Nekevahi. So we have the Hazachar and the V'im Nekeva, the V'im of, and if it's a female, so that tells me Zachar Vade Nekeva Dais Leitimtim Androgynous. Those are two expressions that are excluding other cases. How do we know this is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda? Because we quoted a brisa that comes from the Sifra. The Sifra is the Medrash on Vayikra. Sifra means the book. It's a big medrash. So the whole Sefer Vayikra, which is called Sifra de Beirav, or Teras Kainim, it has two names. So that Stam Sifra, Rabbi Yehuda, Stam Sifra, an anonymous Sifra that doesn't have a name attached, is taken from the teachings of Rabbi Yehuda. That's how the way they set up the Sifra. Just like the Medrash on Bamidbar and Dvarim is the Sifri, is the Stam Sifri is the Rashbi, Reb Shem Bar Yochai. So, and the Stam Mishnah would be Reb Meir, and I think Stam Tisefta is Reb Nechemia, but the Stam Sifra is Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda Bar Bilai of our Mishnah is the one that said that you don't evaluate a androgynous in the category, not of a male, not of a female, when it comes to that donation. That's a proof to Reb Shizbi Amar of Chisda. Okay. Amar of Nachman Bar Yitzchak, all of the Sifra Sifri and all of that are all students of Rabbi Akiva. And the Mishnah also, Reb Meir is a student of Rabbi Akiva. So really all of them go according to Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is the father of all of this. And then each one had the language that was used as the basic text. Yeah. It would be, let's say, like publishing the notes, let's say, of the Fabrengens, the writings, the speeches. So you would take one person's notes, and then you would edit it based on other people's. So the basic would be that original person that had a lot of notes, whatever, and then everyone else would get edits. That's how it was. Rabbi Akiva students, the Sifra was based on Rabbi Yehuda's notes, the Mishnah was based on Rabbi Meir's notes, and they added it after that. Now, Rabbi edited the Mishnah. Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak Afanan Amitinina. We also learned this in a Mishnah. It says, Kol ksherim lekadesh chutz mecher sheita v'katan. Everyone can, lekadesh over here means to put the water into to put the ashes of the paraduma into the water. It's called kiddush mechatas. Anyone can do this except for a cher sheita v'katan. That means a deaf mute, an imbecile, and a child. Rabbi Yehuda machshir b'katan. He says a child can do it. However, paisel b'ishav androgynous. He says not a woman and not an androgynous. Shema mina. We see that an androgynous is not a male. The Gemara asks straight away, so maishna mila. What about the circumcision? You said you can do that on Shabbos. It's not a male. How do you do it on Shabbos? It says, Mishum d'ksiv himalachem kol zachar. There's an extra word that says kol zachar, all male. What's it coming to include? It's coming to include even a androgynous, the hermaphrodite, which has a male organ. So the bris could be done on Shabbos as well, based on the pasuk by Mila. It's not a determination of the status of the child. It's just a hilchas Mila halacha. Okay, the last chapter of Bikurim has Bikurim doesn't end with Mishnayos. There's one added chapter of Brisa, and it's all about androgynous. Yeah, when you make a siyum on Seder Zram, so I don't know if you want to give your speech on that last chapter or the chapter before. It's a little easier. So, okay. The Mishnah says, Mishayle Shnei Tinaikas. Someone has two children. Echad Lamal It could be a male that has in front of him two babies. It doesn't have to be that it's like a parent, but it doesn't matter. Echad lamal achar Shabbos, ve'echad lamal b'Shabbos. One of them, the bris was supposed to be done on Sunday, and the other one, the bris was supposed to be done on Shabbos. Now, the way you count the 8 days is a child that's born on Shabbos has a bris on Shabbos. That's 8. Child that's born on Sunday has a bris on Sunday. 7 would have been Shabbos. From Sunday to Shabbos is 7. So Sunday should be the bris. So there's 2 children here. B'shachach u'malas shalachar Shabbos b'Shabbos. You did the wrong one. The male did the bris on the Sunday baby. Did the bris on Shabbos. He's chayev. He's chayev v'chatas because he did an avera. He did a circumcision on Shabbos, and it was not a mitzvah. He did it too early. The mitzvah was from the 8th day. He did it on the 7th day. Let's see the next case. I mean, the intention here was positive. He was really trying his best. He was trying to do a mitzvah. Echad lamal b'erev Shabbos, v'echad lamal b'Shabbos. Let's say one of them was Friday bris. One of them was a Shabbos bris. Now, v'shachach u'malas shel erev Shabbos b'Shabbos. You made a mistake. You did the Friday one on Shabbos. Doesn't tell us what he did on Friday. We'll see later. But obviously he knew there was a Friday baby here, Friday bris. But he did the Friday one on Shabbos. So here we have a machlekes. Rabbi Eliezer mechayev chatas, Rabbi Yeshua paiter. Rabbi Eliezer says, look at what the person did. He did a bris on the wrong day. Now, a Shabbos bris is allowed to be done on Shabbos. But if mila shalei bismana, a bris that's not on its 8th day, is not supposed to be on Shabbos. He did a bris in the wrong time. That wasn't supposed to be on Shabbos. Rabbi Yeshua exempts him. Rabbi Yeshua says that this is considered ta b'dvar mitzvah. He made a mistake about a mitzvah, and he fulfilled the mitzvah. He did fulfill the mitzvah. Not like in the first case where he didn't fulfill the mitzvah because it was too early. Over here he fulfilled the mitzvah. It's a day late. That's still a mitzvah. So then he's going to be exempt. A special exemption for someone that was trying to do a mitzvah and actually performed the mitzvah, that he doesn't have any chiyuv chatas on Shabbos. Rabbi Yeshua's leniency here. Okay. Now, we learned, I see the tag, like this time. Yeah. Okay. Rav Huna Masni Chayev. Rav Huna, a student of Rav, he says, the way it's worded in our Mishnah, that when you read the first case of the Mishnah, that there was one baby that's supposed to have a bris on Sunday, and another one on Shabbos, but he did the Sunday one on Shabbos, Chayev. Rav Yehuda Masni Pater. Rav Yehuda has the story different, has the Mishnah different. He says that in the case where you did the Sunday one on Shabbos, that means you did a bris early. That is actually a machlekes. The case when you did the bris late, when you did a Friday one on Shabbos, that is no machlekes, everyone agrees is pater. The opposite of our Mishnah. Our Mishnah had that if you did the Sunday one on Shabbos, everyone holds chayev. If you did the Friday one on Shabbos, then it's a machlekes, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua. That's Rav Huna's pshat. Rav Yehuda's pshat is, if you did the Sunday one, let's go the other way. If you did the Friday one on Shabbos, everyone agrees is pater. See, Rav Huna doesn't have an everyone agrees is pater. Only Rav Yehuda has everyone agrees is pater. If you did the Friday one on Shabbos, everyone agrees is pater because you fulfilled the mitzvah. Everyone agrees ta b'dvar mitzvah v'asa mitzvah is pater. The whole machlekes is ta b'dvar mitzvah v'lo yasa mitzvah. If you made it, you were trying to do the mitzvah, but you didn't do the mitzvah. But there, Rabbi Eliezer says chayiv, and Rabbi Yeshua still says pater. If you did the Sunday one on Shabbos, that's the machlekes. Okay, Now we go back. Rav Huna Masni Chayav. Rav Huna says, like our Mishnahs, we're going to see the Tanya, started in a Brayso, Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says, we had before Reb Shimon ben Elazar, student of Reb Meir. Leinechliku Reb Elazar, Reb Yeshua. The whole Machlekes Reb Elazar and Reb Yeshua corrects it. It says Elazar, corrects it on the side to Reb Elazar. Reb Elazar is Reb Elazar ben Horkenes. Reb Yeshua is Reb Yeshua ben Chananya. They're 2 out of the 5 students of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai that we have in this week's Pirkei Avos. Almisha Hayalei Beis Tinaikas. They only argue about someone that there's two children. Echad Lamal b'Shabbos, Echad Lamal Achar Shabbos. One the bris was supposed to be. They don't argue about this case. About one was on Shabbos, the bris, and one the bris was supposed to be on Sunday. B'Shachach U'Malas Shel Achar Shabbos b'Shabbos. And they made a mistake. They did the Sunday bris, the Sunday baby. They did the bris on Shabbos. Shu chayev. Everyone agrees that he's chayev. That's exactly the statement of Rav Huna. Alman echlaku. So what's the machlekes? Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua. Al misha hayalei beis tinekes echel malamal be'erev Shabbos. One was a Friday bris. V'echel lamal b'Shabbos. V'shachel malal shel erev Shabbos b'Shabbos. And you did the Friday bris a day late. That's, you fulfill the mitzvah if you do it late. If you do it early, you don't do the mitzvah. If you do it late, you do the mitzvah. So if you do it late and you fulfill the mitzvah, but just not in the right time, then Rabbi Elazar mechayev chatas. Rabbi Elazar says, well, you did a bris on Shabbos that wasn't supposed to be. So you're chayev a chatas, sin offering for violating the Shabbos. Rabbi Shua Paiter. Rabbi Shua says, you're exempt. They both learn it from Avodah Zarah. What does that have to do with Avodah Zarah? Well, the laws, in Sefer Vayikra, it says about the Karban Chatas. Later on, in Parsha Shlach, in Sefer Bamidbar, it talks about a Chatas for Avodah Zarah. There it gives us some details about the Chatas. But we learn which sins are obligated in that Chatas. Back in Vayikra, we learn from the Chatas of Avodah Zarah that it needs to be Zedai Nekaris Shegasi Chatas. We have some halachas that we learn from that Chatas. So there's always a comparison to the Karban Chatas, to the Avodah Zarah when we discuss the Chatas. So he says both of them learn from the Karban Chatas of Avodah Zarah. That goes like this. Rabbi Elazar Savar Kavaydas Kechavim. Rabbi Elazar says, well, the prohibition that was performed was exactly like idolatry. Okay, how does that work? Well, Torah says don't do it. If you do it, Yechayev Achatas. Here too, it's a negative prohibition. So you have to know it's a negative prohibition. Torah says don't perform a bris on Shabbos. It's not the right time. And he did it. It's Chayev. It wasn't in the right time. It was a Friday bris. Rabbi Shua says, Hassam, the lav mitzvah.
Why would the Zara? I mean, if it's just because it's a lav mitzvah, there's a lot
it's a lav. Yeah.
It's something less severe than Avodah Zarah.
Right.
Right. Okay, don't.
Yeah, the Gemara learns the regular chatas to the chatas of Avodah Zarah because it says Torah achas yelachem. There's one halacha for all of them. And what exactly we learn, so that's a discussion here as well. So Rabbi Yeshua says, you can't learn this from Avodah Zarah because Avodah Zarah you weren't attempting to perform a mitzvah. Over here you were attempting to perform a mitzvah. You were trying to do a bris. And actually you did a bris. You did a mitzvah. So Rabbi Yeshua says you're exempt. It's not a good comparison to the chatas. The chatas doesn't apply in this case. Rav Yehuda Masni Pater. Let's go back. Rav Yehuda is the other student of Rav. He said that they both agreed to one of the cases that's Pater. That means a Friday bris on Shabbos. Everyone agrees. Rabbi Elazar also agrees with Rabbi Yeshua that you're exempt. The Tanya was taught in the Brayso of Rabbi Meir. Before it was the Brayso quoted Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar as a student of Rabbi Meir. Here we have a quote from Rabbi Meir. Leinechleku Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Yeshua, Al Mishayel based on Lamel Berev Shabbos Shachalam b'Shabbos. If there's a Friday bris and a Shabbos bris, and v'shachacham al shel Shabbos b'Shabbos, and they made a mistake and they did the Friday baby on Shabbos. Shu pater. Everyone agrees that he's pater. That there's no machlekes. Alman nechlekus. So what is the machlekes? when you have two babies, one was a Sunday bris, one was a Shabbos bris. But you did the Sunday bris on Shabbos. Rabbi Lezer says you chayiv because you didn't perform a mitzvah. Rabbi Shua Paiter, he exempts. He says, well, even though you didn't perform the mitzvah, but you attempted to perform a mitzvah, that's already an exemption. And they both learn it from Avodah Zarah. Well, how does that work? Rabbi Lezer said that just like Avodah Zarah, by Avodah Zarah, the Eibishter says, the merciful one says, do not do it, do not worship idols. And when a person does worship idols, he has to bring the chatas, if it's by mistake, and all of that. So here also, he has to bring the korban chatas. Rabbi Yeshua says, Hasam leitarid mitzvah. Hacha tarid mitzvah. It's supposed to be tarid b'mitzvah. That's the way Rashi's gear says. Hasam leitarid b'mitzvah. Over there, he wasn't involved in performing a mitzvah when he was worshiping idols. Over here, he's involved in performing a mitzvah. So that's not comparable to Avodah Zarah, so he's going to be exempt. Okay. Now, we're going to have a third version of this. Going to be exactly the opposite of the two. How do you have the opposite of two? You'll see. Very surprising. Now, this is a machlekes by one case, and they agree to the other case. Which case is that? And depending on which case it is, we would say they agree, the one they agree to is they either agree that everyone holds chayav or they agree that everyone holds pater, depending on which case it is. That was a machlekes, Rav Huna and Rabbi Yehuda. And we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it with the opposite case. It's going to be very strange. It goes like this. Tani Rab Chia. Rab Chia taught in the Brisa. Omer Haya Rab Meir. Rab Meir would say, Leinechleko Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shual Misha Haya Lebeis Tinaikas Echad Lamal Berev Shabbos Vechad Lamal B'Shabbos. If there's a Friday bris and the Shabbos bris, and he did the Friday bris on Shabbos, V'shachach Mal Shal Erev Shabbos B'Shabbos. Well, that sounds pretty good. I mean, he was the wrong day, but he still performed the mitzvah. That's the more lenient case, usually. Shehu Chayev. Here's where you get thrown off. How's this going to work? Everyone agrees that you're Chayev in this case. And this is when you did it in the better case. You did the bris late. That's still a mitzvah. And nevertheless, because it was on Shabbos, everyone agrees you're Chayev, even Rabbi Shua. Alma nechlaku, so what is the machlekes? I mean, you can't be more Chayev than Chayev. Al misha beis tinaikas echad lama lachar Shabbos v'echad lama b'Shabbos. You have two babies. One was supposed to be a Sunday bris. One was supposed to be on Shabbos. And they made a mistake. B'shachach mal shalachar Shabbos b'Shabbos. They did the Sunday bris on Shabbos. That's pretty bad. The bris wasn't even valid. They'll probably have to take a drop of blood on Sunday. That's the machlekes. Rabbi Lezer mechayev chatas. Rabbi Lezer says chayev chatas. Okay, I understand that. Rabbi Shua Paiter, Rabbi Shua says that you're exempt. Very surprising. The Gemara right away says, what is going on here? Haster Rabbi Shua Seifa de covered mitzvah Paiter, Reisha de covered mitzvah mechayev. Look at what just happened. In the Seifa, a Sunday bris on Shabbos, Rabbi Shua says, is exempt. There was no mitzvah performed. It was too early. Rabbi Shua says, you're pater, even though there was no mitzvah. A Friday bris on Shabbos where there is a mitzvah, Rabbi Shua says, is chayev. How could that be? The whole exemption here was because you were performing a mitzvah. So Amri Debei Rabbi Yanai, Yeshiva Rabbi Yanai answers this, Reish kekain shekadam umal shel Shabbos be'erev Shabbos. Delaying in Shabbos lidches. See, there was a question that was going on in the back of our minds as we're learning this Gemara. There's two babies. One was supposed to be on Friday, one was supposed to be on Shabbos. And you'd made a mistake, you did the Friday one on Shabbos. So what did you do on Friday? So here we're getting the answer. On Friday, you did the wrong one. You did the Shabbos one. Now, it's Shabbos. and the only one left is the Friday one. So is there, this is like a, do you have a ticket, a free pass to do a bris on Shabbos? You get one free pass for these two babies to do a bris on Shabbos. Do you have a free pass here to do a bris? No. Because the bris was the one that was supposed to be on Shabbos, you already did on Friday. So really, there is no baby here that's supposed to have a bris. So even though the person thinks he's doing a mitzvah, but there's no mitzvah here to be performed. There was no, well, he's doing a mitzvah because he's doing a late bris, but there was no exemption to do this bris on Shabbos. Shabbos was not pushed off in this household for anything. So therefore, he's going to be chayav v'chatas. Seifa, in the other case, where there's a baby that was born on a Shabbos, there's a baby that was born on a Sunday. You did the wrong one. You did the Sunday one on Shabbos. Okay, but this household has Shabbos pushed off in this household because there was supposed to be a bris on Shabbos. I know you did the wrong one, but Shabbos was pushed off in this household. Seifa in the Shabbos Lidches. One of the babies was supposed to be done on Shabbos. Granted, you did the wrong one, but there was still a dispensation for because you had an allowance. You were allowed to do the one bris on Shabbos. Amalei Rav Ashi l'Rav Kahana. Rav Ashi says, 1 second. What are you telling me? That if there was some allowance to perform a bris on Shabbos, then that exempts you from the other one that you weren't supposed to do. Well, there was some baby somewhere that was born on Shabbos. And there was somewhere in the world there was a bris on Shabbos. So this Shabbos was meant to be pushed off. I know it wasn't in this house, but somewhere it was supposed to happen. So the Gemara says, I guess Rav Kahana responds, yeah, there was somewhere in the world. It wasn't for this person. So Shabbos goes on the person. This person had a Shabbos pushed off. It's a very deep Gemara here, how Shabbos works, according to how you're supposed to learn this. It sounds like Shabbos is a gavra, that it goes on the person. And this person already has an allowance for Shabbos to be not postponed, but Shabbos to be pushed away because of a bris. So somehow that exempts the person from a chatas, even when what he did was not exactly the one that he was supposed to do. However, if he'd never had that dispensation that on the person, so then he would be chayav. That's according to Rabbi. Okay. Now, the next Mishnah is always asked to children as a riddle. See, you could try this. When is it possible, according to halacha, that a child could have his bris on the 8th day, the 9th day, the 10th day, the 11th day, or the 12th day, and not because he's sick? So that's the riddle that they asked. It says, a child is given a circumcision on the 8th day. Letitia is given a circumcision on the 9th day. In certain circumstances, it's not the 8th day, it's the 9th. Lasara, certain times it's the 10th. Lachadas, sometimes it's the 11th. Yud Beis, sometimes it's the 12th. Lipachas v'liyos, it can't be before the 8th, and it can't be after the 12th. Unless the child's sick, that's a different story. But calendar-wise, it could only work out to the 12th. It goes like this. HaKetzad. Kedarke l'shmeina. Normally it would be the 8th day. Neilad l'bein hashmashas. Let's say he was born bein hashmashas, in the twilight. So, twilight means that it could be that he was born by day. Could be he was born by night. If he was born by day, then the bris should be early. The bris should be, let's say we're talking about a Sunday evening. It could be Shabbos. It doesn't have to be Shabbos. But we'll see the next case. But this was born on a Sunday evening. We don't know if it was Sunday or Monday, because it was right by the twilight. So if you do the bris on Sunday, the following Sunday, then could be you did it a day early because he was born on Monday. If you do the bris on Monday, so then mimanavshach, it's either 8 or the 9th, which is acceptable. So that's nima l'tes. Nima l'tes because if I count from the Sunday, that's 9 days. Even though if I count from the Monday, it's 8 days. But it could be that's how it's working. Let's say that same story happened on Friday evening. So it could be the baby was born on Friday, but it could be it's Shabbos. So you can't do the bris on Friday because could be that's going to be 7 days because he was born on Shabbos. You can't do the bris on Shabbos because could be he was born on Friday. So you have to do the bris on Sunday. You have to push it off a day. So that's Nima La'asara. That's 10 days. Let's say that Sunday you can't do a bris. Why? Because Yom Tov Lachar Shabbos. That Sunday turns out that was a holiday. It was Sukkot, Pesach, Shavuos, whatever. It was 2 days holiday. Yom Tov, Shabbos, and then Yom Tov. So you're not going to do a bris on Yom Tov if it's not the right day. So Nima La'achadasa, then you're going to do the bris on Monday. Talking about in Eretz Yisrael. Otherwise, you would tell me right away that the 2 days Yom Tov, you can get to 12. Talking about in Eretz Yisrael. But we do have one case where you do get to 12, and that is Beis Yomim Shel Rosh Hashanah. See, because Rosh Hashanah is on the first of the month, so even in Eretz Yisrael, Rosh Hashanah is 2 days. So then if Rosh Hashanah is right after Shabbos, and the child was born Bein Hashmashas, so Sunday would have been the 10th. Can't do Monday is the 11th. You have to wait till Tuesday. That's the 12th. Nimalish Neimasa. Now it says, a child that's sick can't do the bris until he gets healthy. Okay, let's see what that means. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, Chalatz Techama. If a child has a fever, nicely calls Zayin Lavreisi, give him 7 days to heal. Iboilu. Where's the question? Me being Meis Leis. When you say 7 days, what do you mean 7 days? Do you start, say the fever went away on Sunday. That's not a good one. Let's say it went away on Monday. The fever went away on Monday. So when do you start counting? You start counting Monday afternoon, Monday at noontime, the fever stopped. So the following Sunday, which is 7 days later, you can do the bris in the afternoon. Is that Meis Leis? Is that how it works? Or do you say that 1 second, Monday was no good because he had a fever. We start from Tuesday. How do you count? So, the Tashima, come and listen. The Tani Luda. Luda is the name of a Chacham, Shem Chacham. Not very common, but Naftali, you told me every Masechta has one name that you don't find anywhere else, right? Luda taught, Yoim Havreisa Ki Yomi Valde. The day of his healing, that means that, let's say that Monday, where the fever broke, the fever went away, that's like the day he was born. My love, what does this mean? Is it not? My Yomi Valde Lebin Meislei, it's just like the day that he was born. You don't count 24-hour periods from the time that he was born in order to do the bris. If a child is born on Sunday, you do the bris on Sunday, even though he was born Sunday afternoon, you can do the bris Sunday morning. That's considered 8 days. You don't need 24-hour periods. So af yom havreisa, you can count that day. It's a little different. You count that day. You count that day as well. So 7 days would be much less. 7 days, if Monday the fever broke, you would count Monday as day 1. And you could do it Monday morning. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos. You won't do a bris on Shabbos though, because that would be Mila Shalei Bismana. Even though it's the time after the healing, but it's not the 8th day. You won't do it on Shabbos. So if it would be Tuesday, so you would do it on Sunday. The Gemara says, "Lie." That's not the way it's working here. The day that he heals is even better. But Yom you don't need Meis Leis. But when it comes to healing, maybe you do need Meis Leis. Maybe it needs to be till the afternoon. You have to wait that amount of hours, 24-hour period, 7 times. So it doesn't tell us anything, this brisa. It doesn't tell us if you have to wait the 24-hour periods or not. So we don't have an answer. In the Shulchan Aruch, I don't know what it says, but from this Gemara, it's left unanswered. Okay, now the Mishnah says, Elohim tzitzin hamak v'nesamila. We mentioned that a circumcision has to be done that's acceptable according to halacha. Not just a medical circumcision. A medical circumcision doesn't satisfy the halacha. That's why in the conversion process, even if a person is circumcised, they have to get it checked by a male, because could be it was medically circumcised, but it doesn't satisfy the halacha. So if there are little pieces of skin foreskin that are left, so it could be the circumcision is invalid halachically. What is the measurement of the foreskin that would invalidate a circumcision? So the Mishnah says, Basar chayfes reiva atara. If the skin covers the majority of the corona. Now we're going to see it doesn't mean that the skin is covering the majority of the corona. It means that the height of the corona, if the skin is raised, the majority of that height of the corona, not that it goes over it and it's hanging over the corona, but just if it's raised the majority of that height, there's a groove around, if it goes up into that majority, so then it's going to be invalid. We'll see. What does majority mean? What does majority mean? Does majority mean the height, majority of the height? Or does majority the circumference? Rashi is not going to say the circumference. How bad is it? Is it just in one spot, or is it around the whole area? That's in the Rishonim they discuss it. But the Gemara is going to explain. There's a problem if a person wasn't circumcised, then he can't eat truma. And here's a person that wasn't circumcised. He was circumcised, but it's not valid, so he can't eat truma. So let's say he has a lot of flesh. It's hard to see what exactly is going on because he's fat. So that means that he should correct it just so it should look okay, which probably means that he has to cut more than the foreskin to make it look that he's circumcised. Now, Molvalei Para, we're on top of 137b. Molvalei Para, if he did the circumcision, he did the incision, but he didn't do Priya. Priya is because there's two skins. Yeah, it's like a yarmulke. So there's an outer skin, but then there's like this lining on the inside. You see that? I don't know if you can. So, this would surround when they do the cut. So they would cut this foreskin, but afterwards the foreskin falls back around the side. It's very clearly cut, but the skin that was underneath doesn't have that elasticity that the upper skin does. So that still is surrounding the corona, the lower skin. That needs to be torn. They tear it. Usually the male tears it with his nail, and then once it's torn, then it comes back, and then it uncovers it. Para means to uncover. So, but if someone did the priya, but he did the mila, but he didn't do the priya, it's kilulay mal. That's not considered circumcised. I think the Muslims do one. They only do the mila, or maybe by Yishmal, there's something in there that they don't do the second part. Okay. Amarav Avina Amarav Yirmiyah Barav Amarav. Statement in the name of Rav. When the Mishnah said that Tzcheifa the Reiva Atara, so that's talking about Basra Cheifa Reiv Goiva Shel Atara. The height, that the foreskin is raised, that it's raised up to the majority of the height of the corona. And as the corona is wider than the rest of the organ, so its majority of that is raised. Rashi over here says, even if it's only in one spot. It's possible that there's the skin, it's possible even that it could get attached. Sometimes it can grow and attach itself if there's a loose skin. Let's say he's heavy and there's a lot of flesh there. Amar Shmuel, Katan Amasubal Babasa. Shmuel has one statement. We're going to see a very similar statement in a brisa. We're going to compare Shmuel's statement to the brisa. Very similar, but we'll say that there's a difference. Shmuel says if there's a child that's fat, Ryan I say calls manshim miskashev in mal. You see, the way to examine this is you have to see what it looks like when there's an erection. So then it would pull the skin back. So if he looks circumcised when there's an erection, so then he's considered mal. So ein tzarech lamal v'im lav. But if even then it doesn't look circumcised, so tzarech lamal, you have to do a circumcision. You have to cut off that extra fat. But masnisa tana, the brisa taught is slightly different. If it's a child that's fat, you check when there's an erection. You see if he doesn't look circumcised. Shmuel's was, you check if he looks circumcised. The Brisa says you check if he's not circumcised. If he doesn't look circumcised, then tzarech l'maylei. Then he doesn't look circumcised, you have to do a bris. Vim lav. But if he doesn't not look circumcised, that's the double negative. If he doesn't not look circumcised, then ein tzarech l'maylei. Then he looks circumcised, so you don't have to do the bris. The Gemara says, "My binai, what's the difference between the two cases? Between the two, not the cases, the two statements, one from Shmuel, one from the Brisa. It could be naya nira veina nira. That means a borderline case. So you see, according to Shmuel, he says you have to check if he looks circumcised. That means borderline. I don't know if you're circumcised. It's borderline. You have to do a circumcision. According to the Brisa, you have to check if he wasn't circumcised. You can't say he wasn't circumcised. So you don't have to do a circumcision. Because I don't see that he wasn't circumcised. That I don't see, because it's borderline. There comes a leniency according to the Brisa. Okay, it says now, Mal v'lei para. If the bris was performed, but the priya wasn't done. Tana Rabbanos, Tana Brisa, Hamal, very interesting, the brachas of the circumcision are on this page. Hamal Omer, the one that does the circumcision says, Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvayse v'tzivanu. You see that abbreviation? Aleph Kuf Beis Vav. Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvayse v'tzivanu. Alamila. That commanded us to do the circumcision. Avia ben, what does the father say? Avia ben Omer, Asher kedeshanu b'mitzvayse v'tzivanu lachnisa b'brisa shel Avram Avinu. That commanded us, that sanctified us, and with his mitzvahs, and commanded us to enter him into the bris of Avram Avinu. Ha'imdim, those that are standing there, same way he came into the circumcision, so we should come to Torah, chuppah, and ma'asim tovim. Ma'asim tovim is usually translated as having children. Because Torah, then chuppah, then ma'asim tovim. Doesn't have to mean that, but that way the order makes sense. If it doesn't mean that, then it makes sense. Otherwise, ma'asim tovim just means mitzvahs. Then the order is, you could have done the mitzvahs before the chuppah. It's Torah, ma'asim tovim, and chuppah. Okay. The one that says the bracha says, who's the mevarich? The Mayal, I guess. Asher kiddush did mi beten, who sanctified the beloved from the womb. This Rashi says it's talking about Yitzchak. Because Yitzchak, Hashem told Avram to take the son, Asher ahavta, that you love. Okay, so that's the Yidid. And why is he Kaddish mi beten? Because before he was born, they were already commanded that they should circumcise. Chayk b'she'irei sam, he put in his flesh this covenant. And into his descendants, he sealed with the sign of the holy bris. Al kain, therefore, in the merit of this, kel chai chalkeinu, our God, our portion. Two versions of this: tziva or tzave. Tziva means command, and we're requesting a blessing now. Command Lahatzel Yedid Sereno Mishachas, to save us from Gehenna, Laman Brisa Hashem of Sereno, in the merit of the bris that's in our flesh, Baruch Hashem Keres Bris. It could also be Tzave, when it's not a request here. It's part of the praises. You commanded. In other words, not a request from Hashem to do. It's what Hashem did. It's a past tense. Sereno. They add the word Sereno. The Bachads were in Sereno. The vowels here, that comes from other sources. Hamala Sagerim, someone that does a circumcision on converts. Instead of, what did he say over there? The same thing. The mila is the same as the moil says the same bracha. Alamila. But there's someone else, I guess it means the sandik, or someone else over there says the bracha, someone that has the cup of wine. He says, that commanded us to circumcise converts, and to cause a drop of blood to drip. If not for the drop of blood, we say this by the converts, we don't say it by a regular bris, because by the converts it's common for them to just need hatafas dam. But you don't say a bracha on hatafas dam. It's interesting. If not for the blood of the circumcision, the heavens and earth wouldn't have survived, wouldn't exist. If not for my covenant, day and night, the statutes of the heaven and earth, I wouldn't have placed Baruch Hashem Keres Bris. We have that pasuk and we conclude, who makes a covenant. Blessed as Hashem makes the covenant. Hamalas Avadim, circumcises a slave. Aimer, he says, say the bracha, the regular. Mavarich Aimer, and the one with the cup of wine says, same as an Eved, same as a Ger. Okay. Hadran Lach Rabbi Lezer Demila. Let's go a drop further here. Rabbi Lezer Aimer, Taylor Nesam Shmeres B'Yamtiv, V'Neisen L'Tliya B'Shabbos. Talking about straining wine. Sometimes today they have nice wines, but they're unfiltered. But I still think that they're strained. Maybe they don't do a second filter. This is for talking about getting the peels and stuff, for getting this out. So they would have a strainer. The way the strainer worked, had a ring. They would put a cloth over this ring, and they would tie it. On Yom Tov, you're allowed to tie the cloth. You're allowed to put up the strainer. On Shabbos, you're not allowed to put up the strainer, but you're allowed to pour wine through the strainer on Shabbos. The problem with putting up the strainer is that you're making an oil. You're making a tent. It's called, and why you're allowed to pour it through, in derech bayra bekach. It's not really considered bayra. I guess because you can drink it beforehand, even unfiltered. I think that's the pshat. The Chacham are more strict. They say you can't put it up on Yom Tov. Even on Yom Tov, you can't put up a strainer, push it over the ring. And you're not allowed to pour it through on Shabbos. But you're allowed to strain it on Yom Tov. The Gemara asks the question. Rabbi Lezer holds you're not allowed to even add to a tent, to an oil arai. Not allowed to even add. But now it says that l'chatchila you're allowed to do this on Yom Tov. Maihi, where do you see this, that you're not allowed to add? It says Ditanan, we had this before once. When we're talking about the window shutter. That if it's hanging, then you're allowed to use the shutter to close the window. But if not, you're not allowed to use the shutter. The Chum were the more lenient ones. They said you are allowed. And we said that was talking about a shutter, I think that was an aruba. It was a skylight. I think that's how we learned it. Whatever the case is, Rabbi Eliezer says that you're not allowed to add. You're not allowed to put it in if it wasn't hanging there already. Rabbi Bar Bachana explained that everyone agrees you're not allowed to make a temporary tent on Yom Tov, and for sure not on Shabbos. The whole machlekes is if you're allowed to add to it. Rabbi Eliezer, we see from Yom Tov. Rabbi Eliezer says that you're not allowed to add. For sure not on Shabbos. We're coming to a problem over here. Rabbi Eliezer says you're allowed to put up a strainer. Rabbi Eliezer or the Chachamim say you're allowed to add on Shabbos. Once it's already opened a little bit, once it's already not open, once it's covered a little bit, you're allowed to continue it. Just like the strollers, if it's open one tefach, you can pull it. Rabbi Eliezer, the Gemara answers, Rabbi Eliezer says like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Eliezer holds like Rabbi Yehuda, and that's why he allows putting up the strainer. Even though normally you're not allowed to put up a window pane, but of a strainer is different. The Tanya was started in a brisa. You're only allowed to do the food that you need. And Rabbi Yehuda Mater, you're allowed to prepare the preparations for preparing food, which means you're even allowed to make the strainer. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. So it's a din in Eichel Nefesh, it's not a din in oil. For oil, it's a malacha. But for Eichel Nefesh, you're allowed to make a strainer in order to do this. Preparations for preparations for food. The Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda doesn't allow you to do everything. He says only things that you can't do before Yom Tov you're allowed to do. But things that you could have done before Yom Tov you can't do on Yom Tov. Gemara answers, Rabbi Eliezer adifa mid Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Eliezer is different. He's even more lenient than Rabbi Yehuda. He's more lenient than Rabbi Yehuda. He holds that even things that you could have done on Erev Yom Tov, you're allowed to do on Yom Tov themselves. Okay, we'll stop over here.